Welcome to the Cosmic Chosen Channel. When God marks you, the enemy watches, not to admire, but to ambush. You've felt it. The strange glances, your name being whispered in places you've never stepped foot. People obsessing over your life like you owe them something. Let's be clear, this isn't because you did anything wrong. It's because your light won't let them sleep. Here's what most don't realize. Psychology proves that sabotage rarely stems from hate. It comes from envy. Envy of your presence. Envy of your proximity to greatness. They couldn't duplicate you, so they tried to delete you. And what better way than through the hands of someone wearing a lab coat? It wasn't random. That prescription, that diagnosis, that concern. It was a setup masked as service, a plan to dim what they couldn't handle. But they underestimated one thing, the divine contract over your life. Because what they meant for harm became part of your awakening. Every scheme, every whisper, every accident only made you sharper. While they played checkers, you've been moving like a grandmaster since birth. Their trap didn't end you, it activated you. You didn't just survive the poison, you became immune to the system. So let them watch, let them plan, let them pace the floors wondering why you're still glowing. Because the truth is, you're not just protected, you're prophesied. Because what's going on around you is spiritual surveillance, not simply gossip. What about your blessing? Too divine to reproduce, too strong to cancel, and too well protected to fail. First of all, they're battling a mirror that reflects who they'll never be, not only conspiring against you. They're responding to something far more profound than just hatching a conspiracy against you because you're succeeding. In actuality, you've turned into a living representation of everything they've attempted to pretend to be. Everything they've been unable to become, and everything they've secretly wished they were. You walked through it and emerged stronger, more determined, and more like yourself. You didn't simply survive what was supposed to shatter you. They are disturbed by that alone. You see, in a society full of performances, the true threat is not your success, but the fact that you stand for truth. Masks are not necessary for acceptance. You don't change who you are to fit in. Most people can't keep up with your degree of honesty for more than 5 minutes, and they detest it. Being with you cruelly reminds them of what they sacrificed to fit in, not because they dislike you. Your presence serves as a reminder of the decisions they have taken, such as selling their principles for approval, betraying others to advance, and silencing their own voices in order to gain favor. That's not what you did. To fit in, you didn't sell your soul. You remained honorable. They now find it unbearable to be exposed by your light. They plan because of this. You're not even the main focus. You've turned into a mirror that reflects their true selves. It also burns. Instead of confronting the reality, they would prefer to shatter the mirror. This is the reason why some individuals who used to applaud you now behave in a cold, aloof, or even hostile manner. Their sense of superiority was destroyed by your development. They no longer regard you as a friend, but rather as a danger to the falsehoods upon which they have based their reputation. The worst part is that everything they do to attempt to make you less dazzling, it simply makes you more radiant. Because when you are selected, the assaults clarify you rather than weaken you. Their hatred is only proof that your spirit is unbreakable, unbuyable, and unreplicable. You are the evidence, not the issue. Second, they use distraction rather than disruption to keep you emotionally involved and prevent you from growing spiritually. They only need to divert your attention. They don't have to ruin you to stop you. That's the true tactic. Because we are conditioned to focus on the overt attacks, the backstabbing, the treachery, the smear campaigns, many selected ones overlook this. However, the true threat is far more subtle. The arguments you didn't have to answer include it. The folks that continuously drain your energy are the source of it. You get so exhausted from the emotional turmoil that you are unable to even properly hear your own intuition. They are attempting to undermine your lucidity, not your peace of mind for the sake of being mean. Because you're dangerous once you start thinking rationally. You begin to do unpredictable actions. Manipulation is visible to you. You become more strategic instead of reactive. The entire game alters when it occurs. They therefore target your feelings first. They cause bewilderment by creating illogical circumstances, such as people who say one thing and do another, or persistent little fires that you have to put out. Self-defense, self-explanation, and self-doubt are all designed to keep you in a loop, because you can't rise in the spiritual domain as long as you're struggling in the emotional one. They know how powerful you are when you're not distracted, not that you're weak. They are afraid of your alignment. They are afraid of your attention. They worry about what will happen if you eventually disconnect from the drama and go back in touch with the divine plan that has been waiting for you the entire time. Therefore, that is the cause if it seems like pandemonium is being hurled at you without any justification. They are attempting to keep you busy, not to completely beat you. But you'll see it clearly if you take a step back, calm yourself, and center yourself. It's all noise, and none of it is genuine. Your next move will be unstoppable after you quit dancing with the distractions. Number 3, your blessing is a divine retaliation, not a gift. Your blessing is more than just a fortunate event. It's a weapon, not a whim or a stroke of luck. You were assigned the task of upending established systems, disrupting patterns, and upending strongholds that have been operating unchecked for many generations. Your life is a counterattack, whether you recognize it or not. Something corrupt loses power each time you ascend. Because of this, you've always felt more pressure than other people. It's because you're carrying something disruptive, not because you're cursed. You are fortunate to reprimand others. Other individuals are fortunate to be at ease. Your favor is severe, not sweet and kind. It cuts through deception. It is impervious to manipulation. It reveals what individuals have been trying so hard to conceal. That's why people become agitated just by seeing you. You don't even need to speak. People are forced to cope with themselves just by being themselves. And that's an issue for people who have centered their entire lives on lying. Authority accompanies your benediction. Furthermore, that authority is spiritual. You were born with it. You didn't ask for it. Your DNA contains it. For this reason, if someone attempts to stop you, everything starts to go wrong for them. They are interfering with a heavenly task rather than merely a human. And it never works out. People believe they can outtalk, outmaneuver, or outwit you. They don't realize, though, that you're not working alone. There is a greater purpose linked to your blessing. It arrives to disrupt rather than to impress. It alters the pattern by stepping into broken familial lines. It enters poisonous workplaces and reveals latent evil. It enters relationships and exposes all covert motivations. You've been battled so fiercely because you're spiritually dangerous, not because you're ostentatious. Your blessing has repercussions for the systems around you as much as for you. And whether they like it or not, your blessing will push back the harder they try to stop you. Fourth, you're difficult to corrupt rather than difficult to love. You're difficult to control, but not difficult to adore. The same is true for those who are accustomed to being in charge. You will not allow others to take advantage of you, deceive you, or minimize you to fit their needs. And the tension starts there. When someone can see right through the act, they are at a loss for how to respond. Therefore, they flip the script and characterize you as tough, too much, or too passionate, rather than putting forth the effort to match your genuineness. That is a reflection of their limitations, not of your shortcomings. They're not accustomed to someone who feels important without their consent. You have your own opinions, you ask questions, you avoid groupthink, and don't merely follow trends. You pose a threat to systems that rely on conformity and silence because of this. Those who claim that you are difficult to love are frequently the same ones who believe that love entails submission rather than integrity. Additionally, they consider your limits as betrayal since you don't blindly surrender your devotion. What they refuse to acknowledge, though, is that they secretly admire you for it. Since acknowledging it would imply acknowledging that you are not the issue, they just lack the words to express it. They speak of you as though you're aloof or reserved. In actuality, though, you're among the friendliest individuals they've ever encountered. You're simply not gullible. Your trust is not something you give away easily. You observe. You put spirits to the test. You can tell. It's not a wall, it's wisdom. You are known by those who genuinely possess love. Before you speak, they sense your essence. However, those who seek simply unaccountable access to your energy, tranquility, or power. They attempt to turn your strength into a weakness and call you derogatory things. You are just impossible to corrupt. You are not difficult to adore. And in a society that is always attempting to assign a value to everything, it is precisely what makes you invaluable. The fifth point is that they are creating traps based on your past, rather than your present. For the you that no longer exists, they are laying traps. In an attempt to figure out how to stop you, they are examining your background and breaking down your previous scars, habits, and triggers. They are pursuing someone who no longer resides at that address, but they are unaware that they are doing so with a damaged compass. Their entire plan keeps failing in their face because it is predicated on out-of-date intelligence. They recall the you who doubted your own abilities, over-explained, and second-guessed yourself. They are counting on that version to appear in order to set off the same triggers, cause the same commotion, and elicit the same response. However, you no longer reside in that area. You've changed. You've experienced too much to be so dependable. That version of you wasn't the entire book. It was only one chapter. They don't realize that every breakdown improved your judgment, that mending sharpened you, and that the agony didn't only alter you, it improved you. You move differently now. You have a purpose when you talk. You react with clarity rather than feeling. You are now responsive rather than reactive. Additionally, that alone has circumvented every strategy they have been methodically developing behind the scenes. Their frustration stems from the fact that nothing is working. You're not as easily caught by the bait as you once were. You're not shaken by the rumors. It's not painful to be rejected. You don't require approval from people you've outgrown. Additionally, the more they attempt to reenact the past, the more they reveal how trapped they are. They are fighting a spiritual war. However, they're employing erotic methods, such as domination, deception, drama, and manipulation. When you leveled up in quiet, nothing works. People who only know how to battle with ego and jealousy can no longer find you spiritually. They are unable to explain why their plans are failing. They consider you fortunate. No, you have changed. You developed into the type of person their plan could never affect. And before they know it, your spirit is already 5 levels ahead, living a life that they can't stop or plan. Sixth, they want you to be emotional because when you're strategic, you may be deadly. What they want is for you to feel, not think, because you see too much while you're at ease. You move too accurately. You can anticipate their next move when your thinking is clear, not merely feel their energy. This explains why chaos keeps appearing at your door in many guises. It's a strategy, not a whim. Reacting rather than reflecting is the aim, because people can tell you're not being your best self while you're in reaction mode. When concentrated, chosen ones can be harmful. You have a surgical insight. Without a word being spoken, you can go into a room and figure out what's actually happening. It comes naturally to you to interpret body language, energy changes, and hidden intentions, but only when your mind is calm and your emotions aren't being controlled by outside stimuli. Because of this, the attacks are rarely overt. They manifest as miscommunications, unforeseen crises, people tarnishing your reputation, and abrupt mood swings from those closest to you. It's all designed to take up your mental energy so you can continue defending, explaining, and overanalyzing rather than acting. Because the game is over the moment you set foot on that chessboard with a clear head. Your plan is fantastic. Their manipulation cannot penetrate the depths of your perception. Since it just takes one emotional trigger to induce you to lose attention, they attempt even though they know you're not influenced by superficial distractions. They can postpone your breakthrough if they can hold you in their sensations. They are aware that you cannot halt your fate, but they can slow it down if they can persuade you to forego accuracy in favor of impulsivity. However, you become impenetrable once you perfect your composure. Your quiet becomes calculated, not because you're louder. Your inaction turns into a weapon. And in that area, you're constructing the world one step at a time, rather than merely responding to it. The seventh is that you are being studied, not despised. Not only are you being observed, but you are also being studied, not with appreciation, but with silent horror. Not because they want to help you, but because they want to understand how you're doing what you do, how you continue to move gracefully under pressure, how you speak the truth when it would be easier to keep quiet, and how you continue to rise when everything around you suggests you should have folded long ago. That's why people are watching you with the kind of attention typically reserved for experiments. They're not hating, they're collecting statistics. They're studying your patterns, how you respond to setbacks, how you defend your peace, how you stay anchored when everything's trying to rip you apart. They understand the spiritual intelligence underlying your quiet. They take note of the seriousness of your statements. They also realize deep down that you're creating a blueprint rather than just an existence. Your decisions, your attitude, and your power all pose a challenge to the structures that are meant to keep people helpless, terrified, and reliant. That's the reason why individuals who have never met you suddenly feel strongly about you. For this reason, they mimic your concepts while disparaging your uniqueness. They're pretending to be above your formula while attempting to decipher it. What they truly fear, though, is that your next action might awaken others. You may set off a domino effect that makes people emerge from the mist. You might demonstrate that recovery is achievable, that you can live honorably and yet succeed, and that you don't need to sell your soul to survive. That sort of reality? It poses a threat to an illusion-based system. They shadow your presence, copy your language, and keep an eye on your energy because you are deadly to spiritual stagnation, not because they adore you. You become more than simply a person. You become a case study, a point of reference, and a living, breathing disruption of everything that is false. And they're watching to figure out how to put an end to what you've already begun, not to praise you. Number 8. You were sent in as a quiet checkmate, but they believed you were the pawn. They aimed to deceive everyone into believing that you were merely another pawn on their chessboard, someone who could be readily sacrificed or controlled. They believed they had you confined, under control, and predictable, so they relied on your calm demeanor, your seeming weakness, and your readiness to comply. However, they failed to see that you were sent in as a quiet checkmate, not to lose or be exploited. You entered what appeared to be traps, confined areas teeming with negative energy, constricting ideas, and individuals prepared to discredit you. It appeared to the unaided eye to be a struggle, a fight for survival. However, those settings weren't by chance. They were divine mandates, well-planned trials that placed you just where you wanted to be, silently collecting data and waiting for the ideal opportunity to change the game as a whole. You entered the enemy's area undetected, therefore committing a kind of divine infiltration. You took in all of their tactics, flaws, and blind spots. You smiled while they plotted, remained composed when they underestimated you, and developed strength in unexpected ways. Every move they believed they could control was only a prelude to the fatal strike you delivered. It will be too late by the time they discover what has transpired. Their authority will be undone, the board will be reversed, and your name will reverberate across rooms you never even intended to visit. Your triumph will be quiet, indisputable, and complete, not raucous or brazen. You were always the checkmate they didn't anticipate, even if they believed you were only a pawn. 9th, you set them off because you exposed the excuses they used for their mediocrity. You set people off by demonstrating that they might have performed better, not because you believe you are superior. The same agony they use as a crutch is what you go through. You have to deal with the same pain, poverty, abandonment, and betrayal. You didn't let it to ruin your character, though. To survive the monsters, you did not become a monster. You maintained your moral character, and that's what makes them uneasy. They use their suffering as an excuse for their actions. They must feel compelled by the world to become aloof, cunning, callous, or resentful. Because of what occurred to them, they have developed whole identities. They therefore see a danger rather than inspiration when you appear with wounds and elegance, suffering and serenity. You dispel the myth that brokenness must become identity and that pain must equate to ferocity. Their entire story is ruined by your evidence that healing is possible. They wanted to think that the only way to feel seen was to play the victim, that the only way to survive was to treat others like tools, and that the only way to become a villain was to become one. However, here you are. You have overcome adversity and are still kind, wise, and strong. They are unable to tolerate that. You force them to face the reality they've been avoiding for years, that they went the cop-out, the ego-driven, or the easy road. And now that you're here, their justifications seem feeble. You don't even need to speak. They feel uneasy simply because you are the live opposite of all the arguments they have made for being trapped. They want praise for not trying to heal, not for healing. Nevertheless, you didn't wait for cheers. Silently, you healed. You developed in the dark. And now you shine so brightly that their shadows are revealed. They want you out of the picture because of this. It's exposure, not jealousy. You came to correct the narrative they attempted to fabricate, not to compete. And that poses a greater threat than any platform, title, or financial gain. You survived what ruined them, and you emerged unscathed. They can't stand you because of this. Number 10. They were triggered the instant you outgrew their agenda, so they didn't betray you accidentally. They betrayed you when you no longer fit the narrative they intended to create about you, not because they were suddenly angry or by mistake. As long as you kept within the parameters they established, some of the individuals you considered loved ones had responsibilities you never consented to but were compelled to play. Guardians of your potential and keepers of limitations. For them, everything remained cozy. However, their job abruptly altered the second your energy changed and your frequency increased beyond their control. This is about spiritual posture, not about small-time envy or personal grievances. You're observing an activation process rather than merely coping with damaged relationships. An indication that your blessing is changing and developing in a way that no longer advances their goals is their betrayal. Their allegiance was contingent on your contribution to their story. They turned off the switch when you outgrew that. Their job was to slow you down, keep you stuck in old habits, and drag you back into a world that was safe for them but poisonous for you. Thus, they turned into barriers. Although it feels like betrayal, their acts are actually a spiritual warning sign. It's an obvious indication that your blessing has been enhanced, broadened, and made far more potent than it was previously. It is inevitable that they will go from support to sabotage. Because it jeopardizes their stability, they are unable to make room for the new you. They attempt to cut your wings rather than applauding your progress. Even if it hurts, this moment is truly your freedom. Their betrayal is evidence that you're headed in the correct track. It's proof that your blessing is changing the very world in which you live, not merely expanding. The difficulty is in seeing the activation for what it is: a spiritual advancement taking place in front of your very eyes, not a breakdown in your relationships. And when you perceive it that way, their treachery no longer has the ability to cause pain. Instead, it serves as the catalyst that propels you over their wildest expectations. Number 11. What you're planning to release is what's being attacked, not what you already have. Because of what you've already accomplished and developed, they aren't pursuing you. The force within you that is waiting to come out, but hasn't yet, is the true cause of their attacks. They fear the potential energy that is pulsing beneath your surface, the unformed next wave of your power. This is about the spiritual upheaval your future self is going to unleash, not about your achievement right now. Something they don't completely grasp is causing a silent alarm to go off in their universe. Even before you completely understand the change in your energy, they sense it. They try to disarm a force they perceive as approaching, but are powerless to stop. Therefore, their attacks are similar to preemptive strikes. They are afraid of the uncertainty you stand for and the danger you pose to the current quo. Because of this, every failure, every drama, and every betrayal are not merely random events. Rather, they are deliberate attempts to prevent you from assuming your full potential before you are ready. They are aware that letting go of what's inside would not only transform your life, but also upend the systems that are based on deceit and deception. The pressure builds up right before your breakthrough because of this. Their goal is to put out the spark before it turns into a wildfire. The fact is that you are unstoppable because people are waiting for you to ascend. The more they prod and prod, the more it's evident that something huge is about to happen. You are a catalyst rather than merely a target. And your destiny, banging loudly and wanting to be heard, is the spiritual disruption they dread. When the attacks occur, keep in mind that they are the universe's way of telling you that you are about to unleash something so strong that it cannot be ignored, not a sign of weakness or failure. Your next action will completely change the world around you. It's not simply a stride forward. Number 12. They continue to underestimate you because they think your self-control is a sign of weakness. Because you don't react the way they expect, they continue to believe you're weak. When you are quiet, they believe you are broken, defeated, or too exhausted to defend yourself. However, that couldn't be more removed from reality. Your quiet is a deliberate decision, not an indication of acquiescence. You're observing, you're gaining knowledge, you're paying attention to every action, every word, and every flaw they display. You're laying the groundwork for your return while they're busy underestimating you. Battles that are unnecessary are not worth your energy. You are aware that time is crucial, and it serves their interest to get into a dispute before it is appropriate. As a result, you hold back out of strategy rather than fear. You let their haughtiness to mislead them. As you get ready for your calm storm, you let their cacophony to flood the space. Your strength lies in this restriction. Every silent moment is a prelude to a future in which you fully reverse the script, leaving them unable to speak, even though they aren't aware of it yet. They believe you're not doing anything, but you're laying the groundwork for a public reversal that will be so obvious and powerful that nobody will be able to doubt your abilities or your mission anymore. They make the mistake of believing that violence and commotion are usually signs of power. Knowing when to act, when to talk, and when to wait is what true power is all about. Your patience is wisdom, not weakness. Their failure stems from their miscalculation, because you're quietly putting the pieces of your win together while they're busy assuming you're finished. When the time comes, your move will be so well-planned and flawless that it will completely change the story. Number 13. They will unknowingly promote you more the more they conspire. Their schemes are like a loudspeaker shouting your name throughout the globe. Instead of silently burying you, the rumors, the murmurs, and the smear campaigns are illuminating the map with your location. People enjoy stories, particularly those that involve conflict. And every time someone tries to block or quiet you, more ears are alerted. The more they attempt to hide you or make you seem unimportant, the more they unintentionally draw attention to themselves. The irony they fail to notice is that your loudest supporter is their hatred. In reality, they are generating interest when they attempt to harm your reputation. People begin to inquire and look for answers, and all of a sudden you find yourself at the center of discussions that you did not request, but that undoubtedly help you. Their attempts to defame you have an impact on communities, networks, and even places you never would have imagined. Although their activities are creating opportunities, they want you shut out. They're growing your audience, but they want to lessen your impact. They appear to be unintentionally sponsoring the billboard with your name prominently displayed. Every disparaging remark they make unintentionally draws attention to your power and your truth, and their jealousy and anxiety are loud enough to draw attention. For this reason, oppositional noise is an indication that you are on the rise. Even if they are unaware of it, their attempts to stop you are what keep you going. Instead of burying you, their planning helps you grow. Therefore, keep in mind that they are offering you free marketing on a scale that you cannot purchase as they intensify their attacks. Your platform expands, and you become more unstoppable the louder their hate. Number 14. Your blessing is evidence that heaven has already decided in your favor, not merely a means of protection. More than just a protection, your blessing is a cosmic affirmation that the greatest power has already decided how to spend your life. It is not a battle that is being fought in secret or on a whim. Rather, it is a combat in which the final decision was made long before you were even aware that there was a conflict. This is true every time you encounter assaults, setbacks, or efforts to derail you. You've already won in the spiritual world, and that decision is final. Because of this, nothing they attempt to accomplish succeeds. It's not because you're fortunate or physically stronger. Rather, it's because your root, goal, and future have been approved by the forces that control the invisible. You're outlasting with divine favor, not merely surviving by accident. It is a purposeful edict from a force that transcends the momentary chaos around you, not a chance event that makes you untouchable. This blessing recognizes your path in addition to protecting you. It lets you know that your challenges, development, periods of uncertainty, and fortitude were all expected and accepted. Your existence is not merely a sequence of chance occurrences. Rather, it is an expression of a divine design that is impervious to mortal resistance. Therefore, keep in mind this when you feel like everything is against you. Heaven has seen your potential, your purpose, and your heart. You will climb, you will succeed, you will realize your destiny. It has decided with confidence. The evidence of that decision is your blessing, a spiritual mark of approval that cannot be removed by an adversary, a situation, or an assault. You're living because you've already won, not merely because you're battling to stay alive. What people see as your weakness ultimately turns out to be your greatest power disguised. Every conspiracy against you and every effort to stop you just serves to highlight the fact that you are precisely where you should be, on the cusp of a breakthrough so significant that it upends the basis of their authority. You are a force of destiny rather than a victim of fate. Your benediction is a statement that the highest forces have already declared victory on your behalf, not merely a shield. The chaos, betrayals, and attacks are only the background noise to the symphony of your ascent. Therefore, maintain your composure, stay focused, and have faith in the tacit plan that is developing under the surface. Because people will not only be shocked when they see the entire extent of who you are and what you carry, but they will also be eternally altered. Now is your time. This is your fate. Furthermore, what heaven has already started cannot be stopped by anybody. In order to ensure that you never miss another moment of empowerment and truth, please remember to press the subscribe button if this message spoke to you and you're prepared to take control of your life. If you see that the tide is turning in your favor, leave a like and comment with your ideas. The breakthrough that someone else needs to hear might be your story. Additionally, share this video with everyone you know who is on their own strong road. We are more powerful and unstoppable when we stand together. One truth at a time, let's construct this movement. May you be blessed.